Okay, we are still holding over here in the first of the 13 principles of faith, and today's shir is dedicated in the schos and the merit of a refuah shlema for the wife of a dear friend of mine, who is a young mother who was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer, Rachmana litzlan, and her name is Sarah Salika Hadassah Bas Rus. She should have a refuah shlema bekarov, speedily and complete be'ezus Hashem. We are discussing over here the concept of Hashem as being the creator of the world. And we already have quite a bit of background going into it the last several classes. And today I'd like to discuss the idea and the concept that it says towards the end of this principle of faith, and that is that Hu Bairei Umanhig L'chol Habruim, Hashem creates and He is the manhig, which means that He guides all of the creatures. V'hu levadai asa, Hashem alone is the one who made, v'oiseh, and He makes, v'yaseh, and He will continue to make and continue to do, l'chol ha'ma'asim, to everything that there is in this world. And this is the concept that the Rambam is introducing from the very beginning of our 13 principles of faith. It's not enough just to believe that there's a God who created the universe. It's not enough just to believe that Hashem knows what's going on in this universe. In order for a person's faith in HaKadosh Baruch Hu to be complete, they have to believe that He is the manhig, that He is the one that is guiding everything constantly in this world, meaning that Hashem is what we would call the Mashgiach. He is the one that is watching over the universe, and He's Mashgiach, He's watching over the individual lives of a person, and He is Mashgiach on all the details that are taking place in a person's life. And that is what we call this concept of Hashgacha Pratis, which means that there is individualized provision or individualized watching that HaKadosh Baruch Hu does over each and every one of us and all of the details that exist in our life. And when a person lives with this understanding of the providential way in which HaKadosh Baruch Hu runs the world, then, as we've spoken about many times throughout, life becomes a different life. When I know that anything that is happening in my life at any given time is only happening because Hashem is willing it, that it should take place. That means the good times and the difficult times and everything that is in between. It's all because Hashem is the Mashgiach. He is the one that is running the show and watching over everything. So therefore, the person knows then that we are never actually alone. We are never going through life by ourselves. We are never fending for ourselves and trying to figure out and make things work in the right way. Rather, at the end of the day, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is the manig, He is guiding, and He is the Mashgiach, He's watching over. And Mashgiach means there is Hashgacha Pratis, there is providential, individual way in which Hashem watches over everything that is taking place in our lives. In a kitchen, in a restaurant, in a caterer, on a cruise ship, there's something called a Mashgiach. And what is the job of the Mashgiach? The job of the Mashgiach is that he takes all of the food in to the kitchen. He makes sure that everything that is brought into the kitchen is kosher, has to be kosher, according to the highest of standards. He makes sure that everything that's being cooked inside the kitchen is done according to halacha. If you have non-Jews that are working in the kitchen, we have to make sure that he turns on all the fires and turns on the stove and turns on the oven. We have to make sure that the milk and the meat is separate from each other. We have to make sure that even fish and meat is going to be separate from each other. We have to make sure that if we're serving vegetables and they're leafy vegetables or herbs, that we check everything for bugs to make sure there's no bugs. There is a big job, and the bigger the crowd is, the more food that has to be served, the more intense is going to be the job of the Mashgiach. If you ever speak to a Mashgiach who is on one of these massive Pesach hotels in the Pesach time, you will hear from them that there is almost not a second to breathe, because Jews, Baruch Hashem, know how to eat, and they eat quite a bit in those 8 or 9 days that they're in that hotel. That's really the reason they probably went to the hotel, was to see how much they could possibly eat in 8 or 9 days. And therefore the kitchen is 24 hours, 7 days a week, pumping and cranking out food. Now that means that the Mashgiach and his staff always have to be available and on guard and watching to make sure that everything that takes place in that kitchen is kosher, 100% mahajin min mahajin, the highest standards. So that means that when the waiter finally brings the plate of food out and puts it on your table, and you pick up your fork and your knife and you're going to dig in to that meal, you trust in the Yirah Shamayim, in the fear of Hashem. You trust in the ehrlichkeit, in the honesty and the integrity of the Mashgiach and his staff, that whatever is on the table is, according to their standards and my standards, something that is kosher, that I can eat and I have nothing to worry about. Otherwise, how could you ever eat at a restaurant? How could you ever eat at a chasana, at a wedding? How could you ever eat at a bris? How could you ever eat at a friend's house? How could you ever eat anywhere? The only way you can eat is because you trust that the Mashgiach is watching over everything and guarantees that that which is on the plate, which I'm going to eat right now, is 100% kosher. Otherwise, you would never eat. When we say that Hashem is the Mashgiach of the world, He is the overseer of the world, that means that HaKadosh Baruch Hu, when He serves us our plate, and He places before us the events of our life, and the situations that are going to unravel and unfold, and the brachas and the nisyonos and the challenges and the good and the elevation and all the different things that a person goes through. So we have to believe be'emunah shleima, says the Rambam, you have to believe with complete faith that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is the Mashgiach, which means that HaKadosh Baruch Hu has guaranteed that every single thing that is coming into our lives has been checked and rechecked and looked for bugs, and they made sure that all the hechsherim are there and there was nobody that tampered with it in the wrong way, that when it comes before us on our plate, in our lives, it is with Hashem's stamp of approval that He is the rabbinical authority over here. He's the godly authority, that everything that's happening to you is with His hashgacha, with His intervention, with His overseeing, with His guidance, and He guarantees that it is 100,000% kosher. When we say that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is the Mashgiach, He is the overseer, He's watching over the universe, and He's involved in this world, that means that since that HaKadosh Baruch Hu, as we pointed out before, He is omniscient, He is awesome in His power, He is omnipotent, there is no limitations in the power and the control and the greatness of Hashem. That means, and Hashem is the source of good, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants only good, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu doesn't make mistakes, and He's 100% absolute truth, perfection. That means that everything that He does is perfect as well. And if everything that HaKadosh Baruch Hu does is perfect, that means that the world is running in absolute symmetry according to the way that HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants it to be. That's what we call hashgacha pratis. We call this divine intervention, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is involved. He is watching. He is working. He is guiding. He is making sure that things will happen in the way that it is supposed to happen. And this, says the Rambam, and really all of the Mefarshim, the Rishonim, the Gemara, Bali Musa, everybody speaks about this in the same way. If you do not believe that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is Mashgiach, that He's actually involved in your life, then you simply don't believe in Hashem. You don't. Because the greatest part of our relationship with HaKadosh Baruch Hu is that He didn't abandon us, and He didn't leave us here on our own. And He didn't say, figure it out and do whatever you want. He says, I am right here with you. I am in your life. And that's why the Mefarshim point out in a week, in 2 weeks, we're going to get the Parshas Yisro, which is the Parsha where the Torah is given to Klal Yisrael. And the first mitzvah in the Aseres Hadibros in the Ten Commandments is Anoichi Hashem Elokecha. I am Hashem your God. Asher would say Sicha Me'eretz Mitzrayim, who took you out of the land of Egypt, mi beis avodim, from the house of bondage. And the Mefarshim, the commentators, asked the following question: you're the Rebbeinu Shalom, you're Hashem, and you're introducing the mitzvah of Amunah, believe in me, because I am Hashem. So certainly you'd probably want to bring the greatest proof that you are the creator of this world and you are the master of this world. And that's why the Jewish people should believe in you. So if you had to rack your brains as Hashem and think to yourself, what would be the biggest proof that I am the creator of this world? What would you say that is? Creation itself. I would say the reason, Anoichi Hashem Elokecha, I am Hashem your God. And the reason that you should believe in me is because Shebarasi Asa Olam, I'm the one who created the world. And yet it doesn't say that in the Torah. The Torah says, Anoichi Hashem Elokecha, I am Hashem your God. You should believe in me. Why? Because I took you out of Mitzrayim, from the house of slavery, from bondage. Why is HaKadosh Baruch Hu pinning our emunah, our belief in Him, on an isolated moment in history, which was the Exodus and the redemption from Egypt, which only really existed for Klal Yisrael, when Hashem could reveal Himself as the creator of the world from the very beginning of time, when He created the world, Yesh Ma'ayin, something from nothing, or as we pointed out before, Ayin Miyesh, the nothingness from the something, that everything is Hashem. So the answer that is given is the following. It's only in the story of Yetzias Mitzrayim, which we are in the midst of in these parshas right now every single week, where HaKadosh Baruch Hu identifies Himself and He reveals Himself to Klal Yisrael and also to the Mitzrayim, to the Egyptians, not only as the one who created the world, not only as the one who is aware of the events that are taking place in the world below, but that He is intimately involved as the Mashgiach with everything that is taking place. HaKadosh Baruch Hu manipulates nature. HaKadosh Baruch Hu decrees against the Egyptians. HaKadosh Baruch Hu saves the Jewish people. HaKadosh Baruch Hu makes a maki, makes a plague, and He divides it between the Egyptians and the Jews. The Midrash tells us that in the plague of blood that we had last week, if there would have been a cup of water, and there were two straws sticking out of the cup, and a Mitzri, an Egyptian, took one straw, and a Jew took the other straw, and they started drinking at the same exact time, the water in the straw of the Egyptian would have been blood, and the water in the straw of the Jew would have been Evian, Fiji, whatever you like to drink. Because HaKadosh Baruch Hu is Mashgiach. He's involved in the world. He's watching over every little detail that's going on over there. And therefore, say our sages, you can't believe in a God who only created the world. Because that's Brias Ha'olam, creation of the world. Where do you see in there that He is constantly involved in what's going on? You might not see that. And therefore, HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, Klal Yisrael, you are going to be the bearers of Amunah. You are from the offspring of Avram Avinu. Avram Avinu is the one who reintroduced the concept of one God who's completely involved in this world. You are the ones, once you have Torah, once that the Torah is in place, this is going to be the codified book, not just of law, but it's going to be the codified book of our Amunah, of our faith. And once that we have Torah, nobody can dispel the rumors that there's no God in this world. Chas v'chalila. So I want to share something with you, says Hashem. You know how much you have to believe in me? Anoichi Hashem Elokecha, I am Hashem, your God. What does it mean, I am Hashem, your God, and your God? It doesn't say Elokechem, your plural God. I am your individual God, which means I, the Rebbeinu Sha'olam, am each and every one of your gods individually. Everybody has their own relationship with Hashem. Because HaKadosh Baruch Hu cares deeply about each and every one of us, and He is intimately involved in our lives. Says the Torah, and therefore you have to learn out your belief from the fact that I'm the one who rescued you from Egypt. Because that means the whole story, from beginning of Klal Yisrael going down to Mitzrayim, assimilating, getting hated by the Egyptians, becoming a slave nation, thinking that we're forgotten about, but then we cry out in our tears to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and he says, oh, you're still Klal Yisrael. You know what it means to be a Jew? Great, I'm going to save you right now. And that begins the process of the redemption. And the process of the redemption is one plague after another, where HaKadosh Baruch Hu shows, I'm right here. I never left the world, and I never left you. I'm just waiting for you to be close to me. And now that you see me, Hashem says, and now that you're with me, says HaKadosh Baruch Hu, you're going to see what I can do to this world. And he shows that from beginning until end of Yetzias Mitzrayim, of the entire story, I am the one that was doing everything. If you want to believe in me, says HaKadosh Baruch Hu, there's only one way. You can only believe in a God that's a Mashgiach. If you don't believe in Hashgacha Pratis, if you do not believe that Hashem is watching everything, if you do not believe that everything that's going on in your life is no less a wonder than a great open miracle in front of your eyes, then says Hashem, you don't really believe in me. You believe in a concept, you believe in a God power, a God figure, but you don't believe in me. It would be like every child knows that their parents are involved in their lives. No child would see how they were raised and say, well, my parents gave birth to me and then they just left me on my own. What are you talking about? Look at the pictures of your life. Look at the pictures of your childhood. Look at the pictures from your bar mitzvah. Look at your chassid, your parents walking you down to the chuppah. What do you mean they just left you there? Every child knows that they were not left on their own. They know that the parents have been by their side, supportive of them from beginning. And if a child would say, no, I think I just was born, and they dropped me in the crib, and that's how, lo and behold, here I am, you'd say, you're nuts. What are you talking about? Do you understand who your parents are? Says HaKadosh Baruch Hu, there's a Rebbeinu Shalom, and that's me. I created the world, and I keep the world running every single day. I'm mechadish b'maisa breishis b'chol yom. I'm constantly renewing the creation. But the highest point of that relationship that you have with me is, I'm a Mashgiach, I'm watching over every single detail of your life. You believe in that, says Hashem? If you believe in that, and you work on that, and you come to recognize that and see that in your life, then you will begin to understand what it means to believe in Hashem. But if a person doesn't see the Yad Hashem, they don't see his hand, they don't know his hand, they don't understand, they don't believe that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is guiding things along the way, then our emunah is not shleima, it is not complete, it is greatly and sorely lacking, and we have a very big misconception about HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Now that being said, I could not think of a better parsha in the Torah to explain this understanding of HaKadosh Baruch Hu about than Parshas Bay, which is this week. And there is a world-famous Rambam at the end of this parsha, Maimonides, who spells it out clearly of why HaKadosh Baruch Hu went through all of the exile and the redemption, why the makos, why the plagues, why the ultimate miracles that HaKadosh Baruch Hu wrought on behalf of the Jewish people, and how it was supposed to be the event of the world. It was the event not of the century, it was the event of all of history that would reveal to us who Hashem is and allow us to understand how we are supposed to believe in Him. The Rambam writes, I'll try to paraphrase some of the words over here, but the Rambam writes the following. And he says, from the time that there was Avodah Zarah, strange worship of God in this world, which eventually turned out to be idol worship and worshiping the sun and the stars, and God was forgotten completely from this world. He says, Mehem, and it was that with all of their wild ideas, they completely destroyed the understanding of what Amunah, what faith is. Mehem kaifrim be'ikr. There are those people that became what's called a kaifer be'ikr. They denied the existence of Hashem altogether. And they said, Ki olam kadma, the world existed before. You don't need a God. The world was just here. And kachashav Hashem v'yoyimru loihu. They said Hashem doesn't exist. That's one group. One group is they deny the existence of Hashem altogether. Umehem, there was another group of disbelievers and non-believers, and they were Machishim b'yediyasai hapratis. And they said, no, there is God. He created the world, but He doesn't know what's going on in this world. He doesn't have that ability to know what's taking place inside of this world. He created it, and then He just kind of waved goodbye, and He's somewhere up in the heavens, wherever it might be, but He's not involved in this world. Okay, that's the second group. And then, Umehem, the third group is, Sheyoidu b'yediyah. They said there is a God. And we know that He knows what's going on in this world, but He has limitations. Umachisha b'ashkacha. And they say that Hashem cannot be involved in the world. He created the world, He knows what's going on, but His hands are tied. He's not involved in the running and the guidance of this world. V'yasu adam k'dogei hayam. He made man like fish of the sea. Shelo yashgiach hakel b'hem. Do you think Hashem cares about the fish in the sea? Does He really care so much? Does the big fish eat the little fish? A little fish lost its fin. The porpoise, the dolphin is out there in the ocean over there swimming around in his pod. Does it really bother Hashem so much what goes on over there? So they said, you know what? Hashem doesn't really watch them. And unless Hashem doesn't really watch them, He doesn't really watch us either. And therefore, and once, now this is the key, once that you believe that Hashem cannot be Mashgiach, He cannot supervise the world, and He's not involved, then there's no punishment if you do something wrong, and there's no reward if you do something right, because Hashem's not watching, Hashem's not involved. HaKadosh Baruch Hu can't be involved. He just kind of left you on your own over here. Yoimru Azav Hashem Azaz, they said Hashem left the world. Now, the Ramban writes, you have these three non-believers, each one on their own level. Number one is a person that doesn't believe in God at all. Number two, he believes in God, but he doesn't believe that Hashem knows what's going on in the world. Number three, he believes in God. He believes that Hashem knows what's going on in the world, but he is not involved. He's not keeping track. He's not involved there. He's not watching over. He's not guiding. He's not keeping tabs on your mitzvahs and your affairs. He's just not involved. Says the Ramban, the reason that HaKadosh Baruch Hu brought all of the miracles in Egypt, and the reason that He brought the onslaught against the Egyptians, and He showed how He manipulates everything on behalf of Klal Yisrael to make us be the nation that's going to go free eventually, be redeemed, go through the splitting of the sea, come to our sin and receive the Torah. All is for one reason. He needed to disprove these three negative, impossible ways of thought to understand the Rebbeinu Shalom, the creator of this world. And therefore, everything that HaKadosh Baruch Hu does, every maifis, every miracle, every sign, every wonder was for one reason and one reason only. I need to prove to you I created the world. And I need to prove to you that I know what's going on in the world. And all the more so I need to prove to you that I am Mashgiach. I am guiding this world right now in front of your very eyes. I know who's a Jew. I know who's a Mitzri. I know who's drinking out of the cup with their straw. They deserve blood. I know the one that deserves water over here because he's a Jew. In the Parsha this week, there was a plague of choshech, of darkness. It says, but for the Jewish people, l'chol moshvesechem, to everywhere the Jewish people was, it was light. How do you know that? How do you do that? How could you make the world so dark that the Mitzvah couldn't even move themselves? That's how dark and thick it was. Yet the Jewish people are walking around, no problem. Well, who turned out the lights? I don't see. The lights are bright over here. HaKadosh Baruch Hu, I'm Mashgiach. I'm watching over you. I'm in your life, intimately involved. I know everything. And therefore, all of our emunah is based upon Yetzias Mitzrayim. You can't pin our faith on the creation of the world. It is amazing and it's fascinating. It's incredible what Hashem did. But you wouldn't be able to answer the question, is Hashem Mashgiach? Is He involved in the world? Does He know what's going on? Is He guiding? Is He watching? Is He making sure that everything's happening in my life exactly the way that it should? Only from the story of Yetzias Mitzrayim, of the slavery, the Exodus, and the redemption of the Jewish people with all the signs and wonders and all of the miracles and the destruction of the Egyptians and Klal Yisrael running off into freedom, into the wilderness and receiving the Torah. Only from there does a Jew know that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is Mashgiach. And says Hashem, if you don't believe in that, if you don't understand that, if you don't learn how to see that in your very own life, then you are chassid, you are lacking in what it means to call yourself a Maimon, someone who believes in Hashem. So we have an obligation, says the Rambam. Ani ma'amin be'emunah shleima. Complete faith, not quasi-faith. Not I'm dabbling in faith. No, emunah shleima, complete faith. That HaKadosh Baruch Hu is the manhig v'hu levada, and He Himself is the only one that does. There's no other powers in the world. Even when we do what we do with our free will and our hishtadlus, our efforts, even that would never work unless it was HaKadosh Baruch Hu running the show. A person, you have all different types of businessmen in the world. You have people that are businessmen. They are successful off the charts. Off the charts. Some of them are not so smart. Some of them never really came up with some amazing idea or anything. But they are billionaires off the charts. Why? Because HaKadosh Baruch Hu decided you're going to become a multimillionaire. There are people that they are so smart and they are so bright and they are so savvy and they work so hard and they just never make it. Why? Because HaKadosh Baruch Hu, in His infinite wisdom, as the Mashgiach, decided that's not what would be kosher for you. For you to become successful and a millionaire off the charts, that's not what HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants for you. The plate of life that I am serving you as the Mashgiach, that has the authentic seal of HaKadosh Baruch Hu on it, says you don't belong to be a millionaire. Why? Because HaKadosh Baruch Hu runs the world. Now we have to make effort, we have to try, we have to do things. All of that is true. But at the end of the day, everything is Hashem. There's a story that I just heard. Fascinating. There was a bris that took place recently in Yerushalayim. And the bris was of a couple. Their first child they had 7 years after they were married. It took them 7 years to have their first child. This child was 11 years after the first child. They have the second child. So it's 18 years of trying to have children, and Baruch Hashem, they have 2 children, but the distance between, the gap between number 1 and 2 is 11 years. There's no children in there. So one of the tzaddikim in Yerushalayim today, Rav Elimelech Biederman, he went to this bris, and the father of the new baby told us, I have to tell you a story. I have to tell you why we were zeicha, why we have this child today. So he said, okay, for 7 years we didn't have children, we finally had a child. And then there's a big gap in between. In the interim of that time, those 11 years, so my brother started dabbling in business, and he found an investment that he thought was the investment that a person is going to make it big in. And he went and he got investors, and he offered me a piece in this investment as well. And he showed me on paper how good everything looked. Impossible that it's going to fail. We're all going to get enough money over to be able to live comfortably for many years. And I began pulling my money together and my assets together. And I wanted a big chelik, I wanted a big piece in this investment. I sold my apartment because I believed in my brother. He knew what he's talking about. I'm going to get it. I even went, I borrowed a little bit of money so I could have a bigger portion. I got other people to donate, to invest. Amazing. My brother makes the investment, and lo and behold, as you would know it, failed. And he lost every single penny. So much money he lost, in so much trouble he got, he actually fled the country, and he went to live in some far off country away from Eretz Yisrael, because he couldn't be there, he couldn't face people, he couldn't live with the pressure that was going on over there. He said, my brother and I was so angry at him. He left me high and dry. Not only did I invest all my money, I sold off my apartment. I really don't have a place to live anymore. And now he just takes off. We don't talk to each other. I can't catch him. I don't have money. How am I going to survive? So for years and years and years, there was so much resentment and so much anger. I did not speak to my brother. Wouldn't you know it, that there was a family simcha in that far-off country where my brother had run off to. And I decided that I'm going in for this family simcha. My mother, an older woman, she knows that I'm going to the simcha. And she says, ever since the day that you and your brother got in a fight, you know how much it pains me. He said, yeah, but you know what my brother did to me? You know how hard it's been the last 5 years, whatever, trying to pull myself back together to run my life financially. I can't forgive him. She said, listen, you're going to that country over there. You're going for the family simcha. Your brother is there. She said, do me a favor. I'm the mama. I'm the mother. Do me a favor. Call your brother and make amends with him. So he says, I can't. You don't know what he put me through. She says, what's bothering you? The money? Is it the money that you lost? Is it the house that you lost? She said, you know that you don't have children already for 10 years. You know that. She said, I imagine that all of the money that you spent in this investment, imagine that it was money that would have been spent for fertility treatments. And if you, my dear son, will make up with your brother and think to yourself that the money that was given, that you gave to him, was all for fertility, I promise you, you are going to have a child. The son says, promise me? Promise you. Make up with your brother, look at the story in a different way, and you'll have a child. He went to the country for this simcha. He tracked down his brother, and he said, I forgive you. Forget about it. It's over. It's over. It doesn't matter. The money's gone. The money's lost. The house is gone. I picked myself back up. I'm surviving. Forget about it. We should have a relationship. I just want to be your brother. And the father turns to Elimelech Binyamin and he says, that was 9 months ago. This is the bris of that baby. So who pulled the strings over here? The mother, she promises, I promise you. Is it the man over here because he let go of the pain and he let go of the heartache and he let go of the frustration and the animosity that he had? Who pulled the strings? The only one who actually pulled the strings in this story is the Rebbeinu Shalom. Because HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, I'm watching the story unfold. I watched the loss of money. Who do you think made the deal fall through? Who do you think made it not work out? That's HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And I watched the fight. I know what's going on over there. And I watched the mother's tears, her sincerity, and she makes a promise that you're going to have a child. And I watched you go out of your way and forget about all the pain that your brother caused you and forgive him as a result of it. Says HaKadosh Baruch Hu, I'm the Mashgiach. I'm watching over the world. I'm intimately involved in the world. You do such an amazing thing. You forgive the brother that ruined your life financially. Your mother promised you're going to have a baby. I'm going to give you a baby, says HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Not because just you did this and you did that and therefore it works magically. I'm Mashgiach, says Hashem. Just like I made miracles in Mitzrayim, I made miracles for the Jewish people when they split the sea. I made miracles when we came to our Sinai and we received the Torah on grand levels like Moshe Rabbeinu, and all of the other miracles, miraculous life with the Jewish people in the wilderness, man falling from the sky, the bear shamir in the waters traveling around with them, their clothes never wore out, their shoes never wore, all these things. I can make a miracle over here also and bring you a child after 11 years when you think that it's hopeless. Says HaKadosh Baruch Hu, if you don't believe I'm Mashgiach, if you don't believe in that, then in fact you can't believe in Hashem. Yes?
Rabbi, but let's say we left the country a day when we got everyday signs that he sent those signs. If I wasn't exactly that day pregnant with the Brenda, we wouldn't have had any papers. Exactly to the day.
There you go.
We left the day before Cuba closed the doors.
So you're bringing a proof.
I have.
You're bringing a proof that Hashem is involved in your life.
But others there, my aunt.
Okay, you're asking the world famous question that how come some people Hashem's hands and his hashgacha is one way, and for some people the hashgacha pratis, the individual attention that Hashem gives to them, is another way. You're asking a question that even Moshe Rabbeinu did not merit to be able to receive the answer. Because Hashem said, only I'm Hashem. Only I'm the Mashgiach. Only I know the details of everybody's life, everybody's neshama, everybody's past, future, present. I'm the only one who knows that. And therefore, when I decide this is the one that is supposed to make it into freedom, And this is the one that's going to stay behind the iron curtain over there. This is the one that's going to have a baby. This is the one that's not going to have a baby. This is the one that's going to be healthy. This is the one, Rahman, that's going to be sick. This is the one that's going to have nachas. This is the one that will not have nachas. This is the one that's going to be successful. This is the one that won't be successful in business. I'm the Rebbeinu Shalom. And I understand the depth and the truth of everybody's life, that I and only Hashem can do what is right and what is necessary and what is appropriate in every person's life. Our job is to see that that's HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That
I know that he's involved because all the things.
Yes.
But then it's scary to know, because you're seeing all the time he's watching, and I know even when I'm by myself at home, you could do anything and I couldn't, because, well, my mother always said, Gedenk, remember his watch.
Right.
All the time.
Right.
But then, how can the one that stay there and is hungry and doesn't have any life?
Again, like I'm saying, you're right. It's a good question. It's a very good question. It just means that the hashgacha, the individual attention that HaKadosh Baruch Hu paid to that one, and the one that he paid to that one, he deals with them in a different way. Now, we don't know all of the layers of cheshbonos, of accounting and decisions that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is making. We say that, God forbid, when a person dies, we say, Baruch Dayan HaEmes. Blessed is the Dayan, is the God of truth. Now, why do we say that he's the God of truth? And one of the answers that is given is because every person who passes from this world, it has a major effect on so many people. Even if it's just the people that are closest to them, their passing has a major effect. It's going to affect this one, and this child, and this grandchild, and this friend, and this neighbor, and this rabbi, and this person, and this employee. It's going to affect. And some people's lives, as a result of the passing of this person, are going to be altered forever. It will never be the same. HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the Dayan HaEmes, the God of truth, he understands that each person that's going to be affected in the way that they're going to be affected, there's something that neshama, that soul, that person has to go through. And therefore, part of the hashgacha, part of the divine intervention over here is he's taking away this person, and at the same time, he's totally aware of everybody else's life that is there, because something about this person's passing needs to be there to have an impact and an effect on that person's life. That means that Hashem is Mashgiach to such an extent, nothing gets away from his glance. Not a single person is unaccounted for. Not a single event will take place just by chance. Everything that goes on. Now, we don't understand always, because we're not privy to be Hashem. Only Hashem has the masterful vision. He is who asa v'oise v'yaseh. He was, he is, he always will be. He sees it all at all times. He's seeing 7.8 billion people in front of his eyes. Constantly, we just see a little speck of existence in front of our face. We can't simply understand. But suffice to say, just like he was Mashgiach of Klal Yisrael in the hard times, when we were in slavery, right? When we were being beaten, when it looked like it was curtains for the Jewish people and there was no way that it's going to get better, he was Mashgiach, he was intimately involved and watching over us. So too, when there is the good, when there's the redemption, when there's the bracha, when there's the success, all of that, it's the same God, the same Hashem. Now, our amunah, our faith is, Anochi Hashem Elokecha. I am Hashem, your God. I have a relationship with you that nobody else in the world has. I have a relationship with you that nobody else in the world has. I have a relationship with you that nobody else in the world has with me. And therefore, I deal with you according to your needs, according to the decrees that belong in your life. I react and I respond to your actions, to your words, to your mitzvahs, to your affairs, only between me and you, with nobody else. I'll deal with them in their own world, in their own way, in their own neshama, where they're coming from, what they went through in this life and the previous lives, and what I have in store for them in the world to come. And therefore, our emunah, our belief is such that you only could claim to be a Maimon, a believer in Hashem, if you believe in this idea. Hashem is Mashgiach. He's watching over every little single detail of my life. And if we don't, that's the Rambam saying, it's not emunah shlema. It's not complete faith. And if a person, again, a person like the Ramban is pointing out over here, if a person doesn't believe that Hashem watches over, then you also don't believe in reward and punishment. And you don't believe in, you don't really believe in that your actions matter and that they count. You don't believe when Chazal say, Bishveli nivra olam, the world was created for me. What does that mean? Not that you are arrogant and haughty to say the whole world was created for me. You're saying the world was created for me. This world that Hashem is the creator. This world that HaKadosh Baruch Hu knows what's going on. This world that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is intimately involved. He's the Mashgiach. This world was created for me to understand that that's who Hashem is, and to live my life that will be according to His ratzon, to His will, that I should be a nachas, I should be a pleasure in the eyes of Hashem, and then in that zechus, there'll be reward, and I'll be able to ward off the punishments and the destructive things that could come either to my life or the world around me. I recognize Hashem is the creator. He is watching. He's the manik, he's the mashgiach. He's involved with every single thing. And therefore the Ramban writes, that's why we have a mitzvah every single day to remind ourselves about Yetzias Mitzrayim, to remind ourselves about the Exodus. And that's why he writes, there's so many mitzvahs that we have throughout the year that revolve around Yetzias Mitzrayim. You make Kiddush Friday night. You mention the Exodus from Egypt. You eat matzah on Pesach. We talk about the Exodus from Egypt. You have a mezuzah. It speaks about the Exodus from Egypt. A man puts on his tefillin. He wears tzitzis. It's talking about the Exodus from Egypt. There are so many mitzvahs that a person will do daily and throughout the year that always come back to one point. Yetzias Mitzrayim, Exodus from Egypt. How many times do I have to remind myself about Yetzias Mitzrayim? Says Hashem, it's never enough. Because that's how you know who I am. That's how you understand how much I love you and I care about you. That's how much you understand I'm involved in your life and I'm taking care of every little detail. If a person doesn't live with Yetzias Mitzrayim in his mind's eye, and he doesn't think what it means, the redemption, he doesn't think to himself what it means, the slavery. We went from being slaves to 50 days later, standing by Mount Sinai and receiving the Torah. No other nation, even here in America, when slavery ended, all the civil rights, still, until this very day, they still feel that they are oppressed, and they still feel that people hate them, and they still feel that they got the low end of the totem pole over here, and that they are an unjustified nation who's been abused by racism for the last hundreds of years in America. Klal Yisrael wasn't like that. Klal Yisrael went from being slaves of the most biggest power, and the slavery that we went to was much worse than what the slaves of America ever went through. And Hashem said, I'm going to change it all around. I'm going to take you out of there. I'm going to lift you up. I'm going to bring you to the highest levels of Kedusha, of holiness. You're going to receive the Torah. And we became a Torah nation in 50 days. What other nation could do that? So HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, remember Yetzias Mitzrayim. Don't forget about the Exodus from Egypt. Don't forget about all the details that are there. And don't forget that I'm the one that affects, and I work, and I do everything that is there. And so, says the Ramban over here, Kol kiyoytzev and mitzvahs rabbi zecher is his mind. There's so many mitzvahs that revolve around the Exodus from Egypt. Va'akol, every single one is why? Liyos lanu b'chol hadoros edus b'moisim shelo yishtachacho. We want testimony for all generation of the miracles and the signs and the wonders that Hashem made for us. We should never, ever forget about Yetzias Mitzrayim, because our emunah depends upon it. The moment that you you erase Yetzias Mitzrayim from the world, the moment that you erase the exodus of Egypt from our history, you have now cut off your connection with Hashem. There'll never ever more be a confident mouth to the kaifer, to the one who denies HaKadosh Baruch Hu. To deny the belief in Hashem. Because the Torah recorded us, the events for all time. There was something called Yetzias Mitzrayim. HaKadosh Baruch Hu did everything to show that He is the Creator. And He knows what's going on. And He's watching over everything, guiding everything. Ki ha'koine mezuzah, like he writes over here. You buy a mezuzah, bezuz echad, for 1 coin. It was very cheap in the days of the Ramban, yeah? And the Ramban writes, for 1 coin you buy a mezuzah, v'kava b'pischai, and you affix it to your doorway. And when you think to yourself what it says inside of there, and it's talking about the exodus from Egypt, you are now testifying to the fact that Hashem created the world. And He knows what's going on in the world. And He's running the world. Imagine every time that you pass the mezuzah and you put your hand onto the mezuzah, you can just think 3 things, just quickly. Hashem created the world. Hashem knows what's going on in the world. And Hashem is running the world. Every time you pass by the mezuzah, you do that. You get a mitzvah of remembering Yetzias Mitzrayim. You get a mitzvah besides the mitzvah of mezuzah that's hanging on the doorway. Besides the chizuk that you get in your amunah, you get a mitzvah of zecher, remembering Yetzias Mitzrayim. V'gam ben-nevuah, and you believe in nevuah. V'hem b'chol pilas haTorah, you can believe in all the aspects of Torah. And we also learn from the mezuzah, but it says inside of there, all of the chesed that Hashem does to those people that do His will. Remember, Hashem was not going to save Klal Yisrael until we cried out to Hashem. Until we showed out Kodesh Baruch Hu, we are your nation. We did not forget about you, Hashem. We're ready to do your ruts. We're ready to do your will. He removed us. He redeemed us and rescued us from this slavery. To freedom. And in the great merit of our forefathers, Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, and Yosef and all of his brothers, He redeemed us and He saved us and He brought us to redemption, to freedom. A mezuzah. Whoever thinks about that when they pass a mezuzah, if we kiss it, that's one thing. If we think about it when you kiss it, stop. I was walking once behind an old Yid here in Los Angeles. His name was Rabbi Landau. He was, I believe he was a survivor from the Holocaust. He's an old Hasidic Jew. And I was once walking behind him, going into a certain shul, and he had a walker, and he was going very slow. And I gave him his time. I didn't try to maneuver around him. And there was a step. He picks up his walker on the step, and he's just like standing there. I think to myself, maybe I'm going to get stuck here today. He's not moving. And then I see, why did he stop? There's a big mezuzah on the doorpost. He stops and he slowly puts his hand up to the mezuzah, kisses the mezuzah, keeps his hand there, probably thinking about these things, kiss, and then he goes in with then he goes quickly into the shul. That's what all of our mitzvahs are doing here, to remind us of why we believe in Hashem. This is Yetzias Mitzrayim is the why we believe in Hashem. How we're going to believe in Hashem, how we're going to develop our emunah to make ourselves more ma'aminim in HaKadosh Baruch Hu, we're only done with 1. We still have 12 more to go over here. That's what we're working on right now. But the how, or the why of why there is emunah in Hashem, it's all because of Yetzias Mitzrayim. If a person will be mechazik themselves, they will strengthen themselves in these areas, you'll begin to see Hashem is everywhere. There is not a moment of my day that Hashem is not involved. Now we can't drive ourselves crazy, because if you're always going to, where's Hashem? Where's Hashem? Where you're going to you'll drive yourself nuts. But a person should get accustomed to finding at least 1, if not 2 or 3 events, quote unquote, that take place on a daily basis in their life, where they're able to uncover and reveal the hand of Hashem. in Beis Yaakov, where I teach, and we learn a lot about Amunah, at the end of the entire Amunah topic that we teach, we get into this idea of Hashgacha Pratis, of divine intervention. And everybody is trying to figure out, how can I see more of Hashem's hand in my life? So I tell them, and I found out later that Rav Chaskel Levenstein, Baruch Hashem, I was mechaven, he said to do the same thing, that you should keep a diary, daily diary, and you should write down inside of that diary 1 or 2 or 3 different things that happened to you that day. Could be the smallest thing in the world, where you have to acknowledge that is the hand of God. When you begin to acknowledge that that is the hand of God, so then the smallest little thing, what you thought was the most meaningless little thing, or the situation that you know you needed HaKadosh Baruch Hu for, and you tell yourself, if Hashem would have made that take place, then certainly the same God is going to help me with this as well. Then you're literally living together with the Mashgiach, the one who's watching over and guiding and is involved in your life. And the girls that did this in Beis Yaakov, they will come back to me at the end of the year, or they'll come back to me even years later, and they will tell me keeping that diary changed their life. Why? Because you know there's God. You know that there's God. You see it. You can't see his hands. He doesn't have physical hands. But you can see the way that he orchestrates things all on your behalf. When a person begins to live in that way, and they begin to recognize the tremendous amount of hashgacha pratis that is all around them, all of the time, sometimes big, sometimes very small, it doesn't matter. There's nothing that is too small for Hashem to do for us. Then we become, as the Rambam writes over here, we become animamim be'emunah shlema. We are people that will believe fully in HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that he is the manhig l'chol abruim, he is the guide, he is the one that guides all of the creations, v'hu levada, and he himself, only Hashem, asa, oise v'yase, he did, he will do, and he will continue to do on behalf of his nation, who keeps in mind daily Zecher Liyetzias Mitzrayim, the exodus from Egypt, because that itself is where we came to know HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That is the place that we understand how Hashem runs the world, and that's the place where we can embrace Hashem as the Mashgiach, as the one that is watching over and guiding the world, and even more importantly, he's the one that is guiding our lives, constantly involved in everything that is going on.
Thank you very much.
Yes.